Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Steve Malzberg Show. I'm Bill Tucker, filling in for Steve, who is off celebrating Rosh Hashanah, the start of the Jewish New Year. Now, we've got Dick Morris coming up, but before we get to Dick Morris, remember to keep it here for Newsmax TV special coverage of the vice presidential debate starting at 8 p.m. Eastern. Here with a preview now of tonight's debate coverage, we're joined by my Newsmax TV colleague, Miranda Khan. Miranda, what do you got for us?
Thanks, Bill. We are now just hours away from the only vice presidential debate between Indiana Governor Mike Pence and Virginia Senator Tim Kaine. Now, the debate will be broken down into 9 segments. They are about 10 minutes long. It all begins at 9 o'clock Eastern Time at Longwood University in Farmville, Virginia. Tim Kaine won the coin toss, so he'll have the first question. Now, Donald Trump, this is a new development today, will be live tweeting during tonight's debate, of course. That's what Trump loves to do. He says that he will, quote, shoot straight and call it like he sees it. This isn't the first time, of course, he's live tweeted during a debate. He did it during the first Democratic debate in Las Vegas. That was last year. Trump's running mate, Mike Pence, says that he's very excited to debate Clinton's running mate, Tim Kaine.
I'm going to be headed over to Farmville first thing tomorrow morning. We're going to talk about it there. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait.
And again, this is the only debate between Pence and Kaine. Newsmax will have live pre- and post-debate coverage beginning at 8 o'clock Eastern Time with host J.D. Hayworth and at 9 o'clock with Ed Berliner. Back to you, Bill.
All right, Miranda, thank you so much. Joining me now, Dick Morris, Newsmax TV's political analyst and author of Armageddon, How Trump Can Beat Hillary. Dick, welcome in. Glad you could be with us this evening. I guess we should probably start with the most obvious question of all. In this debate tonight, can Mike Pence possibly help Donald Trump recover from what was generally agreed a poor debate performance by him?
Yeah, I think he certainly can. I think Pence may do a better job of being Trump. I mean, Trump didn't even raise issues like Benghazi or the Clinton Foundation or the email scandal. You got to assume that Pence will. And anyone who raises those kinds of issues really has a superb chance of winning that debate. And I wouldn't particularly see it as a debate necessarily among the candidates because they're not running for president. And you won't have 80 million people watching, but you 10 or 20. And for a 90-minute infomercial of laying out all the arguments against Hillary and all of her shenanigans, that's pretty good. You can't even buy that kind of time.
That is true. But could it possibly be, and I can't help but wonder this, could Governor Pence serve as an inspiration maybe to Donald Trump that perhaps, just maybe, he should listen to his advisors and prepare for the next debate? Because by all accounts, these two men are taking this debate seriously and actually ready to debate.
Yeah, I hope so. I think that may be true. I think it's worth noting that while it is true that Trump statistically lost that debate, Hillary gained after it was over. There is no poll that shows her running away with this. The best she does in any poll is 5 points. Rasmussen just came out with a poll. He's the one I trust the most that said she's only 1 ahead. So this is nothing that can't be overcome by a good second debate performance.
No, you make a very good point there, Dick. The polls, in fact, have this basically a dead heat all the way around. The 5-point advantage for Ms. Clinton is from the CNN opinion research poll. And Rasmussen, as you note, has them dead even. And that poll also says 83% of voters that they interviewed have made up their mind already. So we are down now to fighting for a very slim, small percentage, aren't we?
Well, theoretically, I don't take that voters at their word. I think the undecided stay undecided and the decided switch back and forth. But I think that there is a point in the polling that's worth looking at. In the negative poll territory, which we're in for this week, where Trump generally does not do well in polls, he's still carrying Ohio by 5 points and only 3 behind in Pennsylvania. And I think that what's going on here is that sort of blue-collar Democrat realignment that is helping him in the industrial North. and may provide some very important openings in Wisconsin and Michigan and Ohio and Indiana, of course, and Pennsylvania. Once his overall national numbers recover, if it generally becomes a genuine dead heat, leads in those states could be very important and could compensate for the disappointing showing in recent polling in Florida.
Yeah, and it's interesting you bring Florida up because 538 is they're saying, in their opinion, in order for Trump to win this, he must take Florida, and they're handicapping him there not to win Florida.
Those predictions are silly. All electoral votes are created equal, and you don't need to win Florida if you win Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania and Wisconsin exceed Florida. You don't have to win anything. You just have to win enough votes. He lost to Romney by about 80 electoral votes. If he wins Ohio, he's down to about 55. If he wins Pennsylvania, he's down to about 40 or thereabouts. My numbers aren't exactly right. But the point is, he can close the gap in a multitude of different states.
Well, there is no doubt, and there's no argument. This thing is honestly a dead heat, whether you look at this on a national basis or you take it, as you're doing, down to the battleground states, which is where this thing is going to be decided. Now, I know you're not Donald Trump, but you wrote a book on how he could defeat her. He doesn't seem to be listening to anybody, Dick. Is he going to start listening? Have we gotten to the point where now he might get focused?
I hope so. He listened very closely before the first debate. From August 20th to September 24th, he was as focused as you could get, and he came up 10 points during that period. I hope the lesson is not lost on him. But there's an interesting point. He lost the debate. He was embarrassed by the tax disclosure of his tax losses, and he's still tied. There is a stubbornness in his vote, a willingness to hang in there with him that is very impressive. And it's worth going back to the finding that most polls have, which is his voters say they're 5 to 10 points more enthusiastic about him than her voters are about her.
Yeah, it's interesting because just anecdotally, I do know people who are going to vote for both of these candidates, and that has been my experience. People who are voting for Hillary are kind of reluctantly going in to vote for Hillary, voting more against Trump. People who are voting for Trump somehow, though, seem to carry a great deal more passion. And you're right, this tax episode this week, if you will, has rolled right out their back because I don't know about you, Dick, but I don't know anybody who doesn't take deductions and legally reduces their taxes. And so to that extent, I think this issue might have helped him a little bit, oddly enough.
I don't buy that, and I do think it's a big negative on him. Come on, a real estate deduction is not like your house burned down and you took a loss. Depreciation, accelerated depreciation, all kinds of incentives to encourage people to develop real estate. And while it's legal, there's not much equity behind it and not much fairness. So I think that it's a negative for Trump, and to try to spin it as an act of genius is itself an act of stupidity. But he seems to have survived it. So he seems to be alive and kicking. Pence does a good job tonight. He does a good job on Sunday. He could be in the lead by Monday.
It'll be interesting to watch. Speaking of which, in terms of surviving things, the Republicans have been seeming to wait for Julian Assange to be their savior, which is an odd sort of thing. He held a press conference and he hinted that there are things coming. You've been around for a long time and looked at these things. Is it fair to expect that Assange is going to release something that somehow is going to benefit Donald and hurt Hillary?
Well, I don't know Assange personally.
Right.
I've simply been following him, as we all have. And it's important to remember that his site is derivative. He doesn't have a vast army of spies going through material and digging up data. He just has a website. And if anybody finds material and wants to put it on his website, he's more than happy to give them a platform. So it may be that his supplier hasn't come forward with the information. And it is very possible his supplier is Vladimir Putin. Hillary said that she believes he was behind the hacking of the DNC emails. And the question that hangs over this race is, does Putin have Hillary's deleted emails? And will he, through Assange, release them before the election? And Assange's off again, on again, may in fact reflect concerns by Putin about whether or not he should do this.
Well, we do know, as a matter of fact, that Ms. Clinton is no fan of Julian Assange. It was well reported on Drudge today that she had audio of her saying, "Can't we drone this guy?" I think that plays into some people's critics of her, and I think other people that is a comment of amusement. How read you this, and do you think it's possibly going to hurt her?
Well, Assange has already hurt Hillary dramatically earlier in the year when he revealed that she was soliciting personal information about foreign diplomats. She wanted their blood pressure, their blood type, what medications they were taking, what they like to eat, all kinds of personal information, biometric information. And you have to assume it was for some kind of espionage. And she's been embarrassed repeatedly by revelations that he's made. But I think Assange is an equal opportunity.
Exactly, I agree, yes.
I think they'll go after Trump as easily as Hillary. Just there's more there to go after. And somebody is supplying Assange with material.
We got about a minute left. We got coverage coming up at 8 o'clock here on Newsmax TV, the debate at 9. What do you think our viewers should be watching for in this debate?
Well, I'll be on at 10:30 at the end of it to see if they saw it. But I think that I go into this debate as I went into the last debate with a list in my mind of 9 or 10 things need to be said against Hillary. Obamacare is falling apart. You need to talk.
We seem to have lost Dick there for a moment in Skype land. I don't know if we're going to be able to get him back or not. But Dick was mentioning the Obamacare issue, and that was certainly an issue on the campaign. And Dick, you're back. Go ahead, finish up your comments about Obamacare.
10 things in my mind that he needs that needed to be raised in the last debate, the next debate, and this debate. And you need to see if Pence does that. Does he pin her back on Benghazi? Does he go after Obamacare? Does he go after her illness? Does he go after the email scandal? Does he talk about that stuff? And
Dick,
just sit there with your own checklist, see how he does.
I'm going to cut you off, Dick. You're on at 10:30. When we come back, thank you for being here now. Our political panel with Britt Badowski and Kurt